Before we start this video, I just want to say thanks to Core, one of my True Believer patrons on Patreon, for requesting one of this month's request videos. If you'd like to request a video, head on over to patreon.com/thebirdman to find out how.
Ba 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 na na, ba 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 na na, oh ba 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 na na, ba 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 na na, togali no potato rika ni malo manika no tika, ba 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 na na.
This Minion orchestra kicks off wall-to-wall movie Minsanity. Jeez, movie, you can't wait 5 seconds before you start minioning? Just bring on the Minpocalypse already.
Orchestra, Minsanity, Minioning, Minpocalypse, all of these words get a little squiggly red line in Microsoft Word, so you get a sin for each one.
Also, shit like this is what terrified parents were worried about suffering through for 90 minutes. Very nice of Illumination to make it clear from the beginning those fears were justified.
Parents who take their children to the movie theater instead of waiting for the DVD in the first place deserve everything they get, to be honest. Exposing the young to loud noises and flashing images when their eyes and ears aren't fully developed is already bad, but not as bad as exposing your loud, crying, annoying children to other moviegoers. Alright, I'm a little salty about kids since I went to go see Fantastic Beasts 2.
Minions have been on this planet far longer than we have.
And yet they've evolved into a compulsively subservient species, rather than advance according to Darwinian logic.
Minions would technically be considered a symbiotic species, which is totally in line with Darwinian evolutionary theory. Also, life forms don't always advance, as some of them are already well suited to their environment, such as the cockroach or coelacanth. So this is Jeremy doesn't know shit about evolution.
That one is in orbit. He's an idiot.
That's racist.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
It wasn't easy for these guys, but they never gave up.
Clearly, somehow they managed to survive the extinction of an entire species.
There were a lot of species that survived the extinction of non-theropod dinosaurs. Roaches and small mammals, for example. I mean, how do you think humans are here today?
You can't blame this one just on the Minions, right? Even if they thought it would somehow stay upright, why would they be celebrating in this exact spot?
For someone who is purportedly running a comedy channel, you always seem to miss when movies are trying to be funny.
Their new master had a tendency to party all night and sleep all day.
I swear to God, I just broke out into a cold sweat thinking this might be some sort of Hotel Transl Minion mashup. This would be the peanut butter and chocolate of immature CG kids flicks, except the ingredients are and more Reese's Feces?
Shit puns aside, that ain't how you spell Reese's, kiddo.
Why would a vampire sleep in a room with a giant window in the first place? Seriously, I'm starting to think the Minions are getting a bad rap here.
Trying to make logical sense about a children's comedy film starring giant plantains.
So what exactly is the distinction in Minions' world between the one-eyed and the two-eyed? Is it their gender differentiation? And if so, I'm assuming the one-eyed monster is the Malian?
Did you just assume their gender, you shitlord?
Also, Jesus jumping gibberish. Whose idea was it again to center a movie around characters that don't actually talk? Would be the equivalent of DreamWorks releasing a Galaxy Quest spin-off with the Thermians speaking in their native language for 90 minutes.
The thing about this is that children don't actually need words to learn and appreciate things on the screen. They, unlike a lot of adults, understand context. And remember, A Quiet Place was a hit and only had about 90 words spoken.
Even in 1968, especially in 1968, I'm not buying that the water outside of Manhattan is this clean.
This really seems an arbitrary line in the sand, Jeremy. I mean, you know New York City has air pollution problems as well, but oh my gosh, there's a blue sky.
This Nixon joke must have killed with the under 10 historical politician crowd.
Earlier in the video, you mentioned that parents would be in attendance of this film, and now you're assuming that this Nixon joke is intended for 10-year-olds. Jeremy feigns ignorance cliche.
Banana.
This movie is bananaing my brain to the bananth degree. I'm adding another 20 sins for the banana of it.
Padding the sin count ex machina. And yes, Jay, I did hear you use my catchphrase. In fact, I'll play your sin of this exact moment because it's perfect.
Just as if just repeating one word or phrase a million times with no added new context isn't funny. You know, clearly anyone who does that and considers that to be making jokes has no idea how to be funny and shouldn't even call himself a comedian, because just saying one word or a short phrase over and over again could never be funny, and that's racist. Narration logos, Prometheus, Comcast, there goes HBO again. Well, someone needs a sandwich, roll credits. Jeremy says boner, come at me Birdman. This scene does not include a lap dance, this movie, that movie, fuck!
I guess the purpose of those goggles are finally revealed, and it's solely to provide a zoom and enhance cliche.
The nitpicking! It burns!
You're telling me in literally the entirety of history that these yellow dumb Marines have existed. They've never learned how to mirror?
I love the irony of you calling the Minions dumb, but haven't realized that this is their first foray into civilization, and likely the very first time they've encountered a mirror. There are only a few animals on this planet that can recognize themselves in a mirror, and I know you're very fond of cats, but I've got some bad news.
Also, how convenient that they turned it on right at the beginning of the expositional part of today's broadcast schedule.
Not exactly. You just send the film for showing the Minions flipping through the channels showing the respective TV show title cards coming up at the same time.
What are the chances each time they change the channel, it's at the exact moment the title card for the show comes up? I'm calling bananigans.
So this means that it is probably at the top of the hour. Therefore, this would be the beginning of the program.
So evil.
What's up with the upskirt, though? Was this movie directed by Zack Snyder, then also directed by Joss Whedon?
I mean, but can you see anything? Jeremy would probably have a heart attack if he watched an anime.
Despicable Me franchise continues its overt assault on physics, providing zero explanation about how the Minions get on top of the Brooklyn Bridge.
You realize that's not the top of the bridge, right? And do you really need a physics explanation for how they got onto the rails of the goddamn bridge? They climbed. You're welcome.
Growing boy-like creatures need their strength.
Why are the Minions so freaked out about Mrs. Nelson and her knife? Don't they enjoy being around potential villainy? I thought it was their whole thing.
I don't see, in this out-of-context clip, that the Minions are freaked out about Mrs. Nelson's knife. It looks to me like they're uncomfortable next to Uncle Fester with a toupee.
If this family has actual guns and bazookas, why not use those instead of that paintball pea shooter that jams easily?
This is kind of a children's film. I mean, they pushed the envelope already displaying a gun and a bazooka, son. They're not going to show people killing with firearms.
Scarlett Overkill! She started out as your average little girl. Braces, pigtails.
I know even more than the next guy that movies have to exposition, but hyperactive child exposition is now officially my least favorite way to go about it.
Complained that there were no words spoken in the beginning, now complaining about there being too many words. Also, I find it odd that you said you understand that movies have to exposition. Not only because that's grammatically incorrect, but don't you send exposition every single chance you get?
Movie tries to be clever about its Gru and Nefario cameo here, but of course can't wait to Gru all over our faces even more before it's over.
Why is this a sin again? You can't just say words and then claim that's a sin of the film. Oh no, a prequel gives me a hint about the films that chronologically come after this one. Send the film, send it hard.
Oh, way to go, guys. We killed the original!
Let's say we grant that time travel works this way. Why would their disappearances be staggered? And why would it be on delay? Even the time travel in this movie is trying to have a sense of comedic timing.
Oh, a comedic film is trying to be funny, you say?
When I started out, people said a woman could never rob a bank as well as a man. Well, times change.
Who knew that Minions was Sandy B's prep work for Ocean's 8?
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference.
We have one thing in common.
There's no way that overly excited girlfriend here, A, believes this, or B, would jump up and shout about it, or C, how is this even supposed to be fun?
When presented with the scripts for this video, the CinemaSins writers snuck option C into this particular sin.
That job is mine!
Why the are all these villains, many of whom are famous enough to be featured in magazines, clamoring to work for another villain? Loner, lone gunman, get it? That's the whole point.
Because she's currently the best and most famous, and this movie is called Minions. Get it?
Good old Big Ben. How would we ever know which movies happened in London without you?
That's funny coming from you. I guarantee that if they'd only shown Westminster Abbey, you wouldn't know if you were in Spain or Italy.
I love it.
That works out because I love...
I know this is the Illumination aesthetic for drawing humans, but I can't stop thinking that a 69 between these two would be potentially lethal.
First of all... And second of all, it wouldn't be a problem because his nose would be resting on her ass while he's licking her Wait a minute, you just want me to explain what a 69 is, don't you, Jeremy?
Checking out my can.
Ham-handed ham handily hatches horrible hammy humor.
Seriously, stupendously superfluous sins should stop soon. Shit.
It'll be my ultimate weapon, but right now it's leaking radiation, like you would not believe.
Even in 1968, people were aware that being in the same room with something leaking radiation was not a good thing, right?
I mean, this is the same generation that put lead into their vehicles and advertised smoking to children. I'm just going to leave it at that.
No, don't say anything. I won't understand.
We couldn't have said it better ourselves, Sandy. We couldn't have said it better ourselves.
Jeremy sends something he likes cliche.
All the three little piggies had to do was just steal one little crown.
Wait, didn't we already get this bit of exposition about stealing the crown earlier? Exposition me once, shame on you. Exposition me twice, I won't get expositioned again.
Hey, you can't use George Bush to send something. A negative plus a negative is a negative.
Good luck getting that crown tomorrow, little piggies. I know you won't disappoint me.
But they're henchmen and she's the master criminal, so they're very likely to disappoint her. Why wouldn't Scarlett have any ideas or plans to share with them? And or why isn't she the one pulling off the heist and having them assist her where needed?
Do you not remember the test she gave them earlier in the film where they needed to steal the ruby from her and did it damn near flawlessly? Yeah.
Whoa, movie, if you're going to pretend to be self-aware enough to make a location card gag, you're going to have to start actually explaining how these same minions have existed since the beginning of time.
What? Jeremy is so angry that the movie stole his opportunity to make a location joke that his brain completely fried and he goes on to a completely different subject. All the while forgetting he gave a couple sentences for the film explaining how the minions have existed since the beginning of time. Dude, go home. You're drunk.
But if the person that's being hypnotized can't understand what the hypnotizer is saying, then how is one hypnotized?
Maybe the film is stating the minions' brainwaves are being transferred. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like.
I get they're small, but there is 0% chance this was big enough a space for all three of them to hide, even in a film that repeatedly says, "F it, this is an animated movie, so whatever goes."
First of all, there is enough space for all three of them, as this scene clearly demonstrates. Second, you acknowledge the film repeatedly says that anything goes, and you still question it?
Why wouldn't you use these go-go minion arms and legs to simply reach out and grab the crown? Oh, right, because this movie prioritizes silliness over anything that makes a lick of sense.
Comedy film for children.
Jeez, movie, Spider-Man too much? Is this scene gonna end with an unconscious Bob crowd surfing in the carriage?
How in the f*** is this like Spider-Man? I could possibly see this being true if he were in the front of the carriage, using his arms to stop the carriage's momentum. But this isn't even close to that scene. What the f***, CinemaSins? What the f***ing f***?
Bob, who appears to be a bald, jaundiced child.
Fine, okay, that was actually funny. But if you think you're getting a sin removed for one good joke, you've got another sin coming.
If I haven't made this crystal clear, Jeremy sins something he likes cliche. I am literally still arguing with people that swear up and down that Jeremy doesn't do this, so when I did this in my satirical Infinity War video, I was somehow wrong.
Which legend dictates makes him the new king?
Tiny yellow traitor!
But didn't Bob do exactly what Scarlett wanted him to do in stealing the crown? Not sure I understand all this hostility.
I mean, it's obvious that she wanted him to bring the crown to her, not wear it and become the king.
Wow, are we really filling time right now with this exodus of the Minionites nonsense? Why am I supposed to care about how the rest of these fellow yellows make it to England?
Because you'd later try to send the movie for not explaining how they all got there. I mean, you're the same guy that demanded a physics explanation for how the minions got onto the rail for that bridge, remember?
So I guess they had these yellow hats available on the off chance a minion would pull King Arthur's sword out of the stone and become King of England?
Or England is rich enough to quickly produce something like this for its royalty.
Also, how does this actually work? Does Elizabeth have to marry Bob? What if there was already a king? Minions brings up so many questions that I'm seriously 100% fine with never having the answers to.
This sin and the preceding sentences are clear contradictions. You're sinning this for not giving you an explanation, and then in the same breath, you say you're 100% fine. This is so sad. Alexa, play Despacito.
King Bob!
Right, like any modern country would ever stand for a dolt of a leader who could barely speak the language and is so narcissistic they basically spend their lives shouting out their own name. Seems a bit odd that this movie spent so much of its budget on rights to 60s hits that not one person in the target demographic will have a clue as to what it is. They could have just as easily played some public domain John Tesh and it would have had the same effect.
Yet another time you assume something in this film is for the kids instead of the parents who are also in attendance.
It was an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow block can't be unseen.
Please, Jeremy, stop trying to sing in your videos. It's bad every time.
Also, does this fire hydrant threesome mean that minions have sex drives? And I just realized Rule 34 applies to minions.
Skip!
And you definitely cannot just give the job to this woman. There are laws.
Like the laws that let you crown a yellow phallic symbol because he pulled a sword from a stone?
Whoa, okay. Jeremy believes that Bob the Minion is a phallic symbol. And I gotta say, if your dick is shaped like him, just give up.
Based on these hecklers in the background, it looks like Parliament is no more sophisticated than a Green Bay Packers game.
People from Wisconsin are pretty nice and respectful. Now, Eagles fans.
Minion Tooie.
Are these ridiculous made-up words that appear in nearly every one of your videos the satire that I supposedly don't understand? Who's the audience for these videos? No, seriously, there are far too many dick jokes and curse words for this video to be for children, but he's making second grade level compound words and reviewing a children's movie. Who's this for?
Really? So the Minions are like the Forrest Gump of 60s England? My mom always told me that life is like a box of Minions. It starts out somewhat cute, but very quickly becomes annoying, exhausting, and full of idiots.
That last sentence could have been said about CinemaSins.
Damn, that's quite a pop-up thunderstorm. It was barely even cloudy when the Minions entered the Abbey all of 2 minutes ago.
Welcome to England.
Not trying to fat shame, but seriously, if none of the other villains can outrun the sumo guy, then Kevin is in the clear.
Sumo wrestlers are superb athletes. I would not be surprised if they can outrun these other not-so-in-shape guys.
What exactly did Lipstick Lady run into? When we see out the windshield, there's nothing directly in front of her.
Are you serious? Literally in the scene that you not so expertly edited, you can see the giant minion creating impact tremors because he's a giant.
This joke is yet another reminder that this entire movie is simply, as they say in England, taking the piss.
You really cannot do an English accent to save your life, can you?
Also, since when have Minions worn underwear? Not that I'm complaining, but this movie has been so addicted to crack, I'm almost wondering if I'm personally responsible for manifesting them.
You literally got a scene of Bob in a thong. And here, have another sin for making me say Bob in a thong. Twice.
Man, this movie does not paint a flattering picture of the London police force.
Wait, what was that?
This movie does not paint a flattering picture of...
One more time.
Flattering picture of...
Flattering, huh?
Flattering.
Fellatio.
And you're working hard to put food on your family.
It'll take time to restore chaos.
10th is 10 spots too low.
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
Good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.